So this action plan is basically what it does is it explains the projects that we are going to be funding in 2013 with our CDBG grant. And in order to simplify for you, we've included some exhibits to delineate some of the important information in the plan. So if you'll look at Exhibit A, Exhibit A lists the projects that we are going to be funding and the funding amounts. Exhibit B gives you a timeline that we've been following to do this action plan process. So you can see that we started the process back in October. Okay, and then Exhibit C briefly explains to you the RFP process that we use to select, rank, and rate these projects. Exhibit D has a lot of information for you because it also, again, lists all of the projects that applied for the CDBG grant, but it also gives you the requested amount of money when they applied for their projects, the amount that we ended up awarding, the districts that the projects belong in or will be happening in, the organization that applied for the grant, and the number of points that the application was awarded or earned. So this spreadsheet gives you a lot of information. It does also show you the projects that applied for the grant but were not selected. So you'll see that on the bottom section. Do you have any questions?
Number 4.
Thank you. Where is, would you tell the council where Kamakoa self-help housing is located?
Kamakoa Nui is in Waikoloa, and it is the county's workforce housing project.
Okay. When I look at these projects, and I know they're all very worthwhile projects, no question about that, but I'm concerned that the projects tend to be over on the east side of the island, with the exception of Kamakoa, which is a multi-year ongoing project that we are certainly supporting. It's not that I want to take away from any other project, but we just seem to be having some problems. In my opinion, from my perspective, I have not been able to get the South Kona Police Station. Obviously, the Ocean View substation design work isn't done. And I understand their points are not sufficient to get them up there. But is there some other reason that I am missing that the projects that we have that might be able to fall under a CDBG grant are not making the cut? What are we doing that's not sufficient to get them up to make the cut?
Well, you know, as part of our process, there's a citizen participation plan that is a part of the 5-year consolidated plan. And HUD requires us to make very public the method that we're going to go out into the community, how we're going to get community involvement. So we do a whole slew beginning back in October, public hearings, public notices, ads that are in the paper. And the only thing that I can recommend is that that people come out to the public hearings, that they ask questions about how they can apply, that they contact my office and work with our staff to get technical assistance when they think they might want to put an application together. We really cannot award projects if the applications don't come in, right?
So, absolutely.
Yeah.
Okay, so one problem I'm hearing is that our nonprofits are not taking advantage of the application process for these types of grants. And my understanding is also, this is not coming from you, is that the median income in Kona is so high that a lot of times the federal government discounts Kona. as an area of need. We have just as many poor people and just as many problems as any place else, but because the median income is higher, we're not qualifying. Is that part of the problem that you're seeing, or is that just what I'm being told?
No. There are several ways that a project can be eligible for this grant. And it doesn't necessarily, Kona is not in a low-income area.
No, it isn't.
But if the project is designated to serve a specific population that is designated low income, it can still qualify. So there are many ways of qualifying for a project, even if you're in Kailua Kona.
Okay, I think maybe some other time I need to talk to you and Steve, because we're doing something wrong. I don't mean you, me, I mean as a group. We're doing something wrong that we're not qualifying, and I guess I'm just not getting it, and I need a little more help. And so we'll talk about this at another time. I yield.
And I welcome also, for the projects that have not been awarded, call my office. We would be more than happy to review the points that the project got and why it didn't get and to meet the threshold. And
I have no doubt in my mind that the point system has been awarded fairly. Not a doubt in my mind. We're just not getting out to our nonprofits in a manner that's getting them back into this thing. So thank you.
And before I call upon Member Poindexter, I just wanted to mention, Ms. Akiyama, could you please tell the public when you normally do these meetings?
Okay, so if you look at Exhibit B, this is the timeline that we followed for this action plan process, and it's pretty much the same every year. And I would flag you also that when we are preparing for the meetings, we will send out letters to all of the housing agency members to let you know that we're going to begin this process. So you do get letters from us as we're beginning our action plan process. But Exhibit B shows you the timeline.
Could you state the month?
We did public notices in October. Public hearings were held October 15th through the 18th in all districts.
Thank you, Ms. Akiyama. Member Poindexter?
Determining on the whether they qualify or not because of their income level, that is done, I guess the HUD does it through, gets their numbers through the census. Is that how they determine the areas that are considered slum and blight?
Yes.
Okay. So I just want to mention that, I know that Kona is not maybe listed as a slum and blight area. However, I'll give you an example of what happened in Hamakua, and Brian Nishimura is here in the here today with us, and he was very instrumental in getting us to be qualified as slum and blight when we weren't. The census didn't show us because people don't like to fill out those survey forms, and especially people who are struggling, they have to go to work, they don't have the time for this, or maybe not understand the form, so it just goes in the trash. So they don't realize how important that is, because that determines funding that comes from HUD, federal funding. So what we did was we did a survey of our own, and Brian Nishimura, we hired him as a consultant to do the survey, and asked, I guess he submitted it to HUD, and shake your head if I'm correct or no, yes. Anyway, and asked HUD to approve that. So it became a HUD-approved survey, and then we qualified for HUD funding.
And what year did you do this?
Brian, do you know what year did we do that? Shortly after the plantation closed. It was after 1994, 95, somewhere around there. We did our own survey. Well, Brian was hired.
This was a specific plantation camp.
Yeah, Brian, can you come up for, I just want to give them some hope, because a lot of times it doesn't show on the track, the census track, that they qualify. But there's other opportunities. If you know you have low-income areas, you may qualify, even if it's the users of that facility may not be the ones that you're gathering to use the facility. She said you could count them in as a low income, but people who live in that area may be low income but not showing on the census tract. So can you just explain what you did? And can you just mention, say your name for the record, please?
Brian Nishimura. I'm a planning consultant in Hilo. And back in the early 1990s, after the Hamakua sugar plantation closed, I worked as a planning consultant to the Hamakua Housing Corporation, which was a nonprofit that was formed to assist the Hamakua residents who were former employees of the plantation, to help them get the plantation camps turned over to the residents who were occupying those units. And we did surveys of the specific plantation camp communities to provide more updated income data, because obviously in 1990, when the census was taken, those families were employed by Hamakua Sugar Plantation, but in 1993 and 1994, the plantation had closed. Their income situation was drastically different than it was during the census year. So we were able to do individual camp surveys, submitted it to county, the Office of Housing and Community Development, and got a designation for the specific camp areas that we were proposing projects for. And that's what we did.
Thank you. Are you with the County of Hawaii?
No, I'm not.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you. I just wanted to share that so that people know that even if you're in communities that on the census tract you don't show as slum and blight, and that you would qualify for funding. There is ways that you can, if you know that that area may have been missed somehow during the census.
Right. Thank you. Thank you for bringing that up. And you know, I guess I should point out that the data that we are using for this action plan process is the 2000 census data. We've been going back and forth with HUD to request the 2010 census data, but they have not issued it yet. So at that time when we were talking about this, HUD did bring that up, and that doing the surveys are a possibility. So we could talk about that in the future too.
May I chime in 1 second, please?
Sure.
Steve Arnett, Director of Housing in Kona. You know, for the agency members, if you have someone who is a potential applicant for a CDBG project, I think it behooves you to encourage them to come to our staff during the application writing process, because the CDBG grants are ranked and rated based upon our 5-year action plan. And without the knowledge of what the 5-year action plan specifically talks about, it's difficult for somebody writing a grant to know exactly what is in that action plan. So my admonition would be, if you have a client or you have a nonprofit who is interested in a CDBG application, that they do their best to fill it out in draft form, bring it to our staff, and let our staff evaluate the application prior to final submittal. And that way, the potential applicant has much more knowledge with regard to what should or should not be included in that application for the ranking and rating benefit.
Thank you, Director, Administrator Arnett. Moving on to Member Willie.
Hi. Yes. A question. Just looking over Exhibit D, I see that you have some applications that, like, for certified kitchen and adult daycare, and I hadn't realized that would be included. I mean, the county's right now acquiring the old courthouse or the courthouse building in North Kohala, and those are two of the potential, or putting in a certified kitchen is a major priority for the community. And also there's been an interest in having an adult daycare. So those would potentially work into this.
Yeah, please have them contact us. We would be more than willing to
First,
review
we
the
have
project.
to get the 6 by 8 foot hole in the roof fixed, and then we'll move on. Thank you.
Ms. Akiyama, could you please explain the point system that goes through the application process?
Okay. When we, in the application packets that we distribute, the community has access to the entire ranking and rating system. So we make very public the categories that are going to be rated, the amount of points that you can earn for each category, and it's all in the application process. Basically, a project needs to make the 1,500 point threshold in order to even be considered. And after that, it's just a matter of, the ranking and rating and who got the highest score.
Thank you. All right. If there's no further discussion, we're going to do a voice vote. All in favor, say aye. Aye. All opposed, say no. Ayes have it. New business B has been, now, do we have, it's not here. Now, this is Miss Self. Is she here?
No, I haven't seen her this morning.
Yeah. Because now this goes through council, right?
Which one?
B,
Yes.
C, and D.
Yes, because in addition to approval of the plan for item new business B is the approval of a resolution that authorizes the mayor to submit this plan and sign the grant agreement.
Gotcha. So new business will be moved to council with a positive recommendation. Moving on to new business C, approval of an appropriation ordinance for the 2013 Community Development Block Grant CDBG program. May I have a motion to move new business C?
So moved. Second.
Moved by member Kern, second by member Yoshimoto. Any discussion? Member Ford?
Okay. This is generic, nothing specific to a project, but I notice you've got ADA compliance in here. When I look at the county's budget in various departments and for various reasons, ADA compliance is in several of the departments, and Parks and Recreation immediately jumps out as one of those areas. What I don't understand is we've got all this money budgeted, and we also have capital money budgeted for this, and yet we're applying for these grants, which I don't have any problem applying for grants. But I don't understand if we've got pockets of money, and I'm not talking the $50,000 emergency thing, but under federal order we had, I think, like $500,000, and Park and Recreation has a chunk of money, but we don't seem to be doing are building the ADA ramps, and I don't understand what the problem is. I see operational money dedicated to it, I see capital money, and now I see a block grant dedicated to ADA ramps, and I'm not aware of these ramps being constructed. Now, a few years ago, I was very, very aware of ramps being constructed. We did a lot in Hilo. We did a lot in other places, but I'm having some difficulty understanding why we're not expending the money that's already in the county, in buckets, if you will, to build those ramps, and yet we're asking for grant money for ADA compliance. And here's the Pontieva Zoo, the Hilo drag strip, the Hilo Municipal Golf Course, and the driving range, and the Hilo Skeet Range. Are these ramps that they're being built, or is there something else?
Can I take that one, please?
Sure. Go.
Member Ford, I just would like for you to know that in the past, we actually have completed ADA improvements for 2 ball fields, one in Pahala and one not in 2013 dollars. But long story short is that we look favorably upon the Parks, and by the way, this came from Parks and Rec. We look favorably upon their application, assuming that it meets the ranking and rating in terms of points, because we realize that the county, even with CIP money, doesn't have enough to complete all of the required ADA projects that are out there. So just wanted to bring that to your attention, while we're on this discussion.
Okay, thank you for that, Mr. Arnett. I'm not so, as far as ADA ramps, I understand we're really behind all over the island. In this particular money that's allotted, I understand it's in Hilo. I don't even have a problem with that. I guess my concern is, and as we go through the budget cycle this week, I'm going to be asking the departments, where are the contracts to get these things done? That's what I'm not seeing. I know there's money because I see it in the budget and in various budgets, both in capital and operational, and yet I'm not seeing evidence in my mind from the money that I know we have allotted in those budgets to get this done. I'm pleased that we're doing this. I don't have a problem with, in this particular case, with it being done in Hilo. I'm just concerned that we are that much behind and I'm not seeing it. And as a comment, when I first came onto the council, 2006-07, we were just as far behind, and the then Public Works Director signed contracts to build ADA ramps, which after I did a study of the other counties, should have cost us somewhere between $7,000 and $12,000 per ramp. We're talking vanilla type ramps, no drainage, no signal lights, nothing. He signed contracts so that he would show a good faith effort for $27,000 for a bunch of them. I'm talking like over 50, and $37,000 for another bunch of them. Now this was during the boom that we had, the building boom that was going on. We could hardly get anyone to do it. If we're that far behind, I have some ideas, and I will be talking to Public Works and Parks about it, as I talked to the last director about how to get this done at a reasonable cost, to expend the money as efficiently as possible. I'm not saying I have the right idea, but we need to get this $45 million worth of backlog taken care of as soon as possible. We will not get it all done now. So it's not that I object to what you're doing, it's that I am confused as to why we aren't doing more outside of your organization. So anyway, I will yield at that.
Thank you, Member Ford. Fire Chief Rosario, could you please step up? And thank you, Ms. Akiyama.
Good morning. For the record, Darren Rosario, Fire Chief, Hawaii Fire Department.
Fire Chief Rosario, I just want to commend you for your efforts in finding ways to, because what I like about you is you are great at finding resources. And I want to thank you for you right now in the CDBG projects, Waikea Fire Station, Fire Ladder Truck Acquisition for $800,000. And as I've been talking to different departments, I've come to understand that you've been really spearheading these, finding these fundings. And the more money you find, the better we are as a county. And for the Pohoa, I believe there's a fire truck that you got funding for, and I just wanted to put on the record that you've been really helpful in getting those fundings, and I just want to personally thank you.
Thank you. We have been very aggressive in our grant funding applications. I have a great team behind me. We look at all potential grant opportunities that's out there. we work long and hard at putting our applications together to put forward a quality application, especially for the reviewers. Nothing goes easier when you're reviewing a very well-proposed project. And the bottom line is our department has been very successful in our grant applications, which has provided in the last several years great opportunities for improving our services and capabilities for the department. We look at all areas that fall into the CDBG areas. We have provided equipment for the Kau district, the Pahala Kau district, and also Lower Puna, which primarily out of the Pahoa area. We've provided tanker apparatus that is greatly needed for our wildland fires, as well as improving our firefighting capabilities through various fire apparatus. And this rescue quint is something that we do not currently have as far as a piece of equipment. It will go to our rescue company to provide rescue capabilities to our rescue company for above ground rescue. It'll also help to put out above ground fires, as well as protect our personnel and perform rescues off of high areas. Greatly needed piece of equipment, and I'm very fortunate to have been able to be awarded this grant. And I have to thank the team that's behind me to help me with this grant here as well. Thank you.
Well, thank you, Chief Rosario, and your team for tapping into the federal resources that we have available. I'm going to call up Keith Kato.
Morning.
Morning, Keith. Could you please state your name and title for the record?
Yeah, Keith Kato, Executive Director, Hawaii Island Community Development Corporation.
Mr. Kato, also, you've been really helpful with getting all these affordable housing. And I wanted to mention that I don't really know too much about the Kamakoa Mutual Self-Help Housing, but I believe there's a self-help housing in HPP that you're working on.
Right.
And how is the program similar to the HPP one? How does the self-help program work?
They're actually, it'll be very similar to what we're doing out at Hawaiian Paradise Park. We'd use the same funding sources, which is USDA rural development for the family's mortgages. The CDBG funds will help, though, with being able to bring the land costs down to a point that the lower income families can qualify for. The program that we have has low income and very low income. So the very low income are basically at 50% of the median and below. For Paradise Park, we're able to buy land there at a very reasonable rate. It's, we're paying something like $27,000 per lot, as opposed to what the cost would be if we were to go into Waikoloa. So this $40,000 per lot that we're seeking would go towards writing down or helping the families afford the Waikoloa lots. The balance of the funding would come from USDA rural development, just like all of our other projects.
And how many families participate in the self-help housing program?
Well, we build them in groups of 10. So far, I think we've done over 250 homes around the island, using this program. And we have a lot of interest in whatever other projects we have going. We want to do more out in Paradise Park.
That's great.
Yeah.
I want to say, keep doing a great job on affordable housing, and thank you for coming up here.
Well, thanks. I'd like to thank the county. The county's been very supportive of affordable housing, and so that makes our job a lot easier to accomplish. Thanks.
Thanks. I'm going to call up Zavi Saunders. Hi, Zavi. Could you please state your name and title for
Sure,
the
I'm
record?
Zavi Brees Saunders. I'm the Chief Professional Officer with the Boys and Girls Club of the Big Island.
Now, you got the Boys and Girls Club with the Big Island certified kitchen construction. That's going to be in Hilo? Where exactly?
So that will be on our Hilo property, located in what is now an open pavilion in a building that was completed last year with an ADA accessible restroom on one side of the building and an open pavilion on the other side. So we plan to enclose the pavilion and put a kitchen in it.
Okay. And how long have you been trying to establish this certified kitchen?
Having a certified kitchen in our facility has been a goal for many, many years, predating me by quite some time. It was a matter of the opportunity and the timing and having the place in which to put it. In the past couple of years, we've done a lot of planning and discussion and community assessments on how we're doing and what needs the community and the parents of our kids and our partners see that are needed. And it really re-emphasized the need for this as well. Last year, through a number of community assessments we did at all of our sites, the provision of no cost to the kids, healthy snacks every day, every kid came out as the #1 need in all 6 of our sites by a whole group of community members, partners, schools, and the youth themselves. Additionally, our teens have been very verbal in expressing their desire to cook and to do culinary arts as a skill development, a job readiness training. So there's kind of a twofold goal in that'll meet the needs of the youth coming to our clubs. In the immediate, the shorter term, it would serve the Hilo Club, but our goal is also to be able to provide food to all of our clubs out of that facility. So that's the longer term goal, is to be able to take food, prep it there, and get it out to our outer sites as well.
Thank you, Zavi. Member Poindexter?
Yeah, now that you have a certified kitchen, you can do byproducts, correct? Yeah, so are you looking at this being an opportunity for the Boys and Girls Club to somehow work towards being sustainable instead of having to seek a lot of, I know you've come to the county for grants in this cycle also, but will this give you the opportunity to look at bringing in revenue to become sustainable?
Absolutely, it will help us move in that direction. I think there's a need in staying with our mission of serving the youth of the Big Island. I think there's a need beyond us for healthy foods for kids in the schools and in other after-school programs. We also have a longer-term vision of a garden-to-table program coming out of there. We also have the potential to do farming and gardening on the property, as well as partnering with local farmers and others in the community. So we would really also like to put that together and have our youth learning in all aspects of that, and then putting it out to the larger community. Absolutely.
Thank you, Member Poindexter. Pohoa has a certified kitchen, right? The Boys and Girls Club.
It has a kitchen, yes.
Oh, okay, it has a kitchen?
Yeah, yes.
I'm glad to see Hilo getting a certified kitchen also.
Yeah, and the kitchen that we may have use or shared use of in some of our other facilities where we do have shared use, like our Pohoa facility, the added benefit of the kitchen in Hilo is we'll be able to make it suitable for the youth actually doing culinary arts in it, whereas that's not the case in the other facilities that may have a smaller or sort of partial kitchen in them. This will allow us to really help the kids develop job skills and other skills that they're very interested in or asking for.
Yeah, and also in Pohoa, we have the district park is coming up. Maybe we could put a community garden there, and it's in walking distance, and garden to, what is it? Your garden?
Garden to table.
Garden to table program.
Absolutely.
That would be great.
Absolutely.
Well, thank you, Zavi.
Thank you.
Could Paula Usitalo please step up? Paula, could you please state your name and title for the record?
Good morning. I'm Paula Usitalo with Hawaii Adult Care Executive Director.
Now, we have the Hilo Adult Daycare plans and design. Could you please expand a little bit on that for this $200,000?
It'll be a facility that'll take care of 80 daily, similar to what we're doing now, but better planning. Since we're an existing facility, we had to take what we had. So we are going to do in that facility a fully certified kitchen, which will eventually provide lunch for all the senior housing as well. The purpose of moving there is that we're in the old Hilo Hospital, which is definitely, we're on an annual basis with the county nowadays because they don't want it to be insured anymore. It's no longer insurable. Aside of that, we'll be providing the same program we provide at the current time.
Hilo Adult Daycare, what services do they provide the community?
Currently, we have about 98 enrolled and about 60 attending daily, 65. We opened up a little site in Honolulu, so we have 4 there, and we fulfill the program by making it 10 with the 6 coming from the center, which helps them to have a different kind of day as well. We are open 6 days a week. We provide not just for the kapuna who need to be somewhere in the daytime, but also for the families who a lot of them are working or need respite. About 40% of our participants would be in the life care centers if we did not exist because of the level of need that they have. Everyone there needs to be there. The vast majority are over 80 years old. And that's the kind of services we need. And you're welcome to come visit us at any time. It's only, people are aware of it only when they need it, primarily is what happens. And so if you are unaware of adult daycare, I mean, there are still people out there who are unaware of adult daycare until they really need it. So.
Thank you, Paula. Housing member Onishi?
Thank you. Thank you. Yeah, first of all, I want to thank County Housing for working, with the Hilo Adult Care and also with Keith Kato in getting this funding for them, which is really important. I've been involved with this for a while, well, maybe a couple years now, and we had gotten the state with their grant in aid to provide some funding, but after meeting with the governor, I mean, this project is like a $7 million project to get everything built out, and so his concern, the governor, is, he's really supportive of the project, but then also he wanted to see some kind of a matching kind of a funding where, he couldn't, I guess, well, the state doesn't have enough money to give the whole $7 million. So, Hilo Adult Care, with the help of, County Housing and also with Keith Kato guys, the Hawaii Development, trying to raise at least half of the funds. And then hopefully by having that, the state will match that other half. Yeah, but I want to thank Housing because they did go for an application last year and they didn't qualify. And so with the hard work of the staff and with Paula guys, then now they got qualified. So that's really good. And now, just like it's like the future, it's the beginning of this future plans. And I think it's all good from now. And so I want to thank everyone for you guys' hard work. Thank you.
Thank you, Housing Member Onishi. Go on, Housing Member Ford.
Thank you. I would like to say that the certified kitchens, wherever they are located, are really quite desperately needed. We have a need for them over on the Kona side, in the Ka'u area as well. We're going to need to do a lot more work and get these things moving forward in some of these other areas. But I'm really glad you got this. I'm very familiar with the Kona Adult Daycare Center. I've worked with them for quite a few years, on and off. And the service they provide is absolutely vital. One of the things I've become aware of quite recently is the fact that we have, certainly in the Kona area, we have the Kona Day Care Center, and then we jump to the Regency or a Life Care Center. We're talking, you're talking hundreds of dollars maybe per month versus thousands of dollars per month. And in Hawaii counties, and especially on the west side and the south, that this gap is insurmountable. So families are struggling to keep their elders at home without assistance because of this disparity in the prices. To me, if we're going to promote ourselves as a state, especially as a county, as a wellness area, we've got to consider all these different levels of care. So I'm really glad that you're getting this certified kitchen, as well as the other certified kitchen that came up here a few minutes ago. But I think the council needs to pay gap in our service capability because we lack the daycares and we lack the certified kitchens to be able to serve them. And these kitchens don't have to serve just the daycare. They can serve many other needs in the community too. And the farmers who would love to be able to have a standing place to deliver their produce and things to these kitchens. It helps the farming community as well. So we have a need in the community that serves, is going to serve several different groups within our community. So congratulations on getting the grant. More power to everybody. You did a great job. I have no problem with any of these grants applications. And you really do serve a segment of our population and their families who are in desperate need. And I really appreciate that, having done the work I've done with a couple of the other agencies. Thank you so much.
I want to thank all of you very much for all of us, and for Ashanishi as well, and Keith Kato. It's a long road ahead for us, but we are very excited about getting started. So thank you.
Thank you, Paula. And one last final person, but I don't have a contact person. ROAB project, who's the contact person for that?
I don't think we have anyone here.
Okay. Well, all right. So moving on. We are going to do a voice vote on new business C, the approval. And all in favor say aye. Aye. All opposed say no. The ayes have it. New business C will move on to council with a positive recommendation. Moving on to new business D, approval of a resolution authorizing the exemption of certain code requirements pursuant to section 201H-38 of the Hawaii Revised Statutes for the proposed Hilo Adult Day Center at the Mo'uli Heights Senior Housing Program in South Hilo, Hawaii. May I have a motion for new business D?
So moved. Second.
Moved by Housing Member Kanuha, second by Housing Member Onishi. Any discussion?
Is there someone who's going to speak to this?
Thank you. Sakiyama?
Okay, so this resolution is requesting exemptions, 2 exemptions actually. And this is for the Hilo Adult Day Center. First exemption is to waive the requirement for the use permit. And the second exemption that they are requesting is a reduction in the parking requirement from 1 for every 200 square feet to 1 for every 300 square feet of gross floor area.
Housing Member Ford.
Thank you. Susan, the 2 exemptions is the requirement for a use permit. Now, for the benefit of the council, would you explain, there's 2 kinds of permits, a use permit and a special use permit. This is a straight use permit. Mm-hmm. Would you explain why that was required initially and why you're asking for the exemption not to have to get a use permit? And how much money is that saving us?
Ooh, okay. I can answer some of those questions.
Okay, and Amy Self is here, so why don't you come on up, Amy, because I think you can answer this, fill in the gaps here. So go ahead, Susan, unless you want to hand it over to Amy.
Maybe I'll just hand it over to Amy.
Okay. Amy, I don't know what's wrong with your chair, but...
Not too short?
Yeah, it's really down there in the dungeons.
There we go.
Is that better?
Yeah.
Okay. Amy, please identify yourself and then explain to the council what a use permit is and why the exemption. We understand the 201H routine. So,
okay, Deputy Corporation Counsel Amy Self. Well, the difference is a special permit is a permit you have to get for agricultural designated land that is not, it's something that's not a permitted use in ag, but you can apply for a special permit to have that use. A use permit is a permit that is, let's say it's not in the ag designation, but it's something that's not normally permitted in a zoning, in the county zoning, but with a use permit, you can apply for that, and if you get the use permit from if the Planning Commission grants the use permit, then you can have that use for that property without the special permit. Okay. I mean, sorry, the use permit.
Okay, so the Hilo Adult Care, what's the zoning for that one?
Zoning for that is RM. I believe it's in the multifamily residential district.
Okay, and so an adult care center would not normally be allowed in a multifamily residential area.
Correct.
And I really don't understand why that would be, but maybe we need to look at the planning code on that one and not stop doing these special use permits for something that's so necessary is keep your family close to the community in which the extended family lives so they can transport easily. So that's something to think about in the future. Thank you. And then the off-street parking loading, and I understand that one, so I'm not going to go into all the details on that. So I yield.
Thank you, Housing Member Ford. Is there any other discussion? No further discussion. We will do a voice vote. All in favor say aye. Aye. All opposed say no. The ayes have it. New business D will move to council with a positive recommendation. May I have a motion to adjourn?
Second.
Moved by Housing Member Ford, second by Housing Member Kern. All in favor say aye.
Aye.
All opposed say no. The ayes have it. Meeting adjourned.